For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Nan Gardner of Cross Plains, Wisconsin. Nan will win a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Haley Manrique, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast, we'll look at an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Special Victims Unit, Season 11, Episode 13, PC.
There's an epidemic of violence in this city. Attacks of lesbians, rapes of lesbians, murders of lesbians.
We watched the stats. Nothing recent to suggest an epidemic.
Or even a pattern.
And I'm here to open your eyes.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and the host of Crime Writers On and Slate's Mom and Dad Are Fighting podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Call me Mitch, Kevin. Call me Mitch.
Oh, my goodness. I think I actually have been all this time. Rounding out our panel is our special guest from the We're Not Together podcast, Haley Manrique. Hi, Haley.
Actually, it's Scott.
Oh, God. Tell me about what is your relationship like with Law and Order?
Law and Order, specifically Law and Order SVU, is the show that I've been watching the longest throughout my lifetime. I started watching when I was 12 years old, and I've been watching ever since. And that's why I'm the well-adjusted adult you see today.
Same.
Well, you're a podcaster and an LGBT advocate, and you're the only person I could ask this to. Who on SVU would make the best same-sex hookup?
Ooh, I like that. Well, I don't know if you're aware, but Olivia Benson, not Mariska Hargitay, but Olivia Benson is a queer icon. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Aware.
Us lesbians love her. I would love to see a Benson Rollins scene. Would love to see that.
Rollins.
Yeah, Rollins got that kind of, I'm from the South. Rollins got that like Georgia thing. It's kind of I like, so I'd love to see that.
So not Barbara and Carisi, which is I heard was a big one.
Oh,
Barisi.
yeah. Barisi. I kind of like that too. There's a lot of vests in there.
So many vests.
So many vests.
So many Westcoats.
You have to get through a lot of vests to get through, but it's worth it.
Now, Haley, of all the franchises, which two cops are your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
Well, before this episode, I really wanted to say, I'm basic. I love Benson and Stabler, but Stabler was in his worst fucking form this episode.
This episode? All right, keep going.
So, I just really love Benson. So, pair Benson with anyone. But she's always just paired, like, I'm with you, Rebecca. I hate Amaro. Like, she's just paired with these horrible dudes all the time. So I would just love to say just Benson and Benson.
It's an acceptable answer. Benson and Benson works. Well, who's your favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order District Attorney prosecutorial team.
I'd have to say very much like Kathy Griffin's reaction in this episode is how I am around Alex Cabot as well. I just love a woman with like a strong jaw. And also...
And piercing glasses.
Yeah. I'm a little afraid of her, which I'm also into. So I'd say I love Cabot. She's my girl.
I love Cabot too. Are you kidding me? She faked her own death, for fuck's sake. She's amazing.
Right?
But I don't think you love Cabot the same way. Now let's look at the first half of this episode, SVU Season 11, Episode 13, PC. Well, thank you, street thug who steals a phone mid-selfie right in front of a cop. Otherwise, how would we find that woman raped, bleeding, and half dead in an abandoned building? She uses her last breath to call out for Mitch.
Mitch. That's all she said?
She could barely say that. Can you describe her? White female, mid-20s. Found her in an empty restaurant on West 48th.
Injuries?
It was hard to tell with all the blood. Slash on her neck, bruising on her thighs. Did you find a purse, ID? Neither. Panties gone, too.
Benson and Stabler find a pentagram written in blood on the wall. Before the assault, the room was used for a music video by thrash artist Vampire Sacrifice, a.k.a. Trey Greenway. But the blood he used came from a blood bank. So as soon as your thoughts turn to, I wonder who that Jane Doe actually was, a gang of angry lesbians enters the squad room. Their leader, Babs Duffy, says the victim is Elisa Davies, a member of the militant group Lesbi Strong.
Can't even.
In the media, Babs accuses the police of turning a blind eye to a perceived crime wave against lesbians. The detectives interview Elisa's girlfriend, Sharon. She's a bouncer at a lesbian bar and has a temper problem. Sharon's ex says her pet name was Mitch, as in, my bitch. When they attempt to question Sharon at a rally, she cold-cocks Stabler and gets arrested. Okay, so the patrolmen obviously get no medical training in this universe because they ask her if, like, the victim he found is breathing, and he says,
I think she's already dead.
I think she's dead. Right as she jumps up gasping for air. I mean, not even close, my friend. Not even close.
Right.
It's a zombie.
Yeah.
But what was the point of her even being alive for 4 seconds? Because, like, cut to the next scene and, oh, by the way, she's also dead. She's
Because she had
dead.
to say Mitch.
Oh, that's true.
Otherwise, how are we going to be looking for Mitch that we think is a guy and then plot twist?
She couldn't have just, like, written Mitch on the floor in, like, her own
In
blood
their
or
blood.
something?
There was plenty of it. She had plenty of it. She could have written a whole novel.
Yeah, well, we later find out that the reason that she bled out was because she was a hemophiliac, which I just think is just bad luck.
Very bad
Yeah.
luck.
I also love, I don't know if you remember this, but when they were interviewing the cop who found her, Stabler said, any injuries? And the cop said, hard to tell with all the blood. It's like, I think the answer is yes.
Was she hurt? Hard to tell because she's dead.
It was a heavy flow day. That's what it could have
Oh
been.
my God. Well, I think the whole show could have been about this musician who thinks he's a vampire.
You think?
Fucking incredible.
NYPD, Trey Greenway, show yourself.
Guy's single-handedly keeping Pier 1 in business.
I actually kind of think when we get the recitation of his lyrics, my note here says it's actually kind of a good poem.
Snatched off the street, yanked off my feet, loving your screams as my fangs slice your meat. The kill is the thrill. Death is my skill, draining each victim till I get my fill.
And it just gets worse.
You think Ice-T was like, you know...
Ice-T's like, I'm going to start my own face union page.
Oh, yeah, what the hell is a face union page?
Yeah, face union?
They can't say Facebook?
Right. Well, and also, like, let's hope this dead girl's face goes viral. It's like, Jesus Christ.
My
Let's hope
God.
her face goes viral so someone recognize her.
Let's go back to this vampire for a second.
Okay, you mean the guy who lives in the an amazing Pier 1 fire sale apartment? It was a great joke. Great joke, Olivia Benson.
I was going to say the jokes in this episode about the vampire were stellar. Were so stellar.
You got to spend a lot of time lighting candles, you know?
So much time.
I mean, it's hard to keep your erection when you're like lighting all these candles. I'm just going to say. You've got rooms and rooms.
You got to unplug the fire alarm first and then start lighting all the candles.
Yeah. And also apparently you forget to lock the door so the cops can walk in.
And we all know everybody who has one of those like Bic like candle lighter things with a little ignition switch. Like they all stop working after like 8 times using them. So like, can you imagine he's walking around, he's like, fuck, like things stop working. Let me get another one.
The flint gets pretty hot. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the scene where he's going into the interrogation room.
Wait. A vampire cannot enter a room unless he's invited.
Here's your invitation.
Oh my God, right?
Did the vampire have to be invited through the metal detector too?
Right. I love the, like, first of all, as a lesbian and a vampire, I'm the only one qualified to be a guest, the guest for this episode. But like, I love how they give a nod to like vampire rules, but it's like, why is that the only room he had to be invited in? Because also, It's vampire lore, right? It's supposed to only be like residences. Can't vampires get into like public places? I don't know. Those are Buffy the Vampire Slayer rules, at least.
I think it might be because he's not really a vampire.
Kevin.
I think this is where perhaps this is where Elliot Stabler got all of his vampire training for his future appearance on True Blood.
Could be. Certainly, like if the vampire talks down to him as human. How dare you?
That's about where we had our first instance of gay panic.
My life is art.
Well, your life is going to be prison, and it ain't going to be blood that you sucking and sing.
They love to threaten prison rape to these.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. These rape cops, by the way, love threatening rape to their suspects.
Right?
They love it.
Which is in poor form in every single episode, but especially in your like trying to be LGBTQ like positive episode. Swing and a miss. I just love when they were interviewing the vampire dude's girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
Benson's like,
He sunk his teeth into your neck. You were screaming.
In ecstasy.
I just love that response and that delivery. It's so great.
It's so good.
You're the sex cops. Don't you know what that sounds like?
Yeah. Can't you tell the difference?
So we finally meet Babs. And
do we ever?
Of course, she's going to be a wise ass to everybody.
So I take it you're their leader?
Oh, nothing gets by you, Curly. All I'm getting from you is your piss-poor patriarchal attitude, so take it down a notch, Jack Webb.
Do you know Miss Davies personally?
You mean were we lovers? Because if two lesbians know each other, then naturally, next thing they're in their bra and panties and going down like the Titanic. Is that it?
Just the name Babs Duffy. Like, you might as well have called her, like, Muff Diver Von Lesbian. You know what I mean? It's just like...
It's like they scrambled all the letters or something.
It's like Voldemort. Yeah, it's like an anagram. It's such an insane name. By the way, I just want to point out, you referred to the lesbians as a gang of lesbians, and a group of lesbians is actually a gaggle, Kevin.
Oh.
Just FYI.
Like geese?
Be a better ally, Kevin.
Be a better ally.
Get with it, Mr. McBig Pants. How did she get picked to be their leader, for fuck's sakes? Like, how is this group of angry lesbians like, she's the one. She's the one we want to put in charge.
She's probably the only one who fucking wants to do all that work.
Yeah.
Coordinate the coffee pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Open an account at the print shop for all the flyers that have to go up the moment you're having the rally. It's like it's too late for the flyers. Everyone's there.
We know. We're here. We made it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kitty corner.
Yes.
Great name for a lesbian bar because as we learn from the bias crimes unit, that's a growing lesbian neighborhood.
That's right.
How is that determined? By looking out and you're like, oh, look at all these lesbians here now.
Look at all these dykes.
So many more Subarus parked along the curb in this neighborhood.
So many Subarus.
There must be a lot of lesbians.
So many
there's
dog
a dog
walkers.
park.
Yeah.
That's what the show would do. They'd pull out every fucking stupid stereotype you can imagine. They would just layer them on.
Right.
They didn't do it. They're very restrained. Not.
Yeah. Look at all these U-Hauls parked on the side of the street. There must be lesbians moving in.
My goodness.
We multiply through cell division, so there's just one of us, and all of a sudden we just exponentially grow. Life finds a way.
Life finds a way. Yes.
It's our very special guest star,
Ms. Kathy Griffin.
Yes.
So, Kathy is a comedian and LGBT rights advocate. She says that early on in her stand-up career, she started to cultivate a following of a gay fan base. What's the connection?
You know, that's hard to say. For some reason, us gays and lesbians, we'll basically like take a straight person and then just say like, you're ours now. Which is kind of what we did with Detective Benson. Yeah, you know, I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think Kathy tends to have a little bit more of a gay kind of fan base than lesbian fan base, although I think she welcomes all kinds, obviously. But I think that Kathy, is just someone who's also just not afraid to kind of speak her mind and everything. And I think that's something that the gay community really connects with, being out and kind of proud of what she says, and I think that might be or I could be full of shit. I don't know. Who knows?
No,
I don't know.
I think there's something to it too, where she has always like very squarely painted herself as an outsider. Her show, My Life on the D-List. She sort of has a whole cult of personality around like observing the real world from a distance, like a slight distance, because she's never felt like one of the in crowd. And I think there's something about that personality and that that take that resonates, I think. I mean, that's always been what I've thought about it.
Here's a partial list of places that she has been banned from. The Tonight Show, The View, the Apollo Theater, and Hannah Montana.
Did she reveal her secret identity? Is that why? And they were like,
she pulled her red wig back, and she really was somebody else completely. Though she was been banned from the Red Carpet Show. I think that was because she said that Dakota Fanning was about to go into drug rehab when she was 11 years old.
Oh my God.
CNN's New Year's Eve show. She was dropped as the spokesperson for Squatty Potty.
That's hard to do.
It is hard to do. Yeah. She was nearly kicked off the Emmy Awards for when she got her Emmy Award for saying, "Suck it, Jesus," because Jesus didn't do anything for her award. And she was also put on the no-fly list after her photos of holding the severed head of President Trump. So she's been kicked out of all these places.
Wait,
I want to know.
Let's be clear. That was a dummy. That was not actually the severed head of President Trump.
I think that would have made bigger news if it was actually the president's severed head. But I got to know, how does she make any money when she keeps getting kicked out of places?
Because the gays keep hiring her.
Oh, okay. There's good money there. Okay, so let's talk about our Hey, It's That Girl that we have.
Hey, it's that girl.
Can anyone identify the actress playing Rosemary, the second rape victim?
There's a whole community of women here who did not have a voice until Babs spoke out.
Isn't that Sutton Foster?
Yes, Sutton Foster. You may remember her from her star-making role as Fiona from Shrek the Musical.
Okay.
But she plays Liza, who's Hilary Duff's friend on TV Land's Younger, now going into season 6. That show also stars Peter Herman, who
is Mariska Hargitay's husband.
Yes, there you go.
Oh. Benson, come on, just come to our side. Come on.
How about the guy playing Ronnie, the print shop guy? Anyone recognize that actor?
I don't have anything against lesbians.
Oh, he looks so familiar, but yeah, I could not place him. He's just hey, it's that guy.
Yeah, his name is Chad Dinella. He is the deputy CIA director on Blind Spot, or as I know it, the one with the naked girl covered in tattoos.
Yeah, we've never watched that show.
Yeah.
Who watches that fucking show?
I don't know it.
Somebody has. His career is marked by the fact that he was killed in both Final Destination and Saw 7.
Ooh, good for him.
Oh.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues on your way up to a lesbian rapist. Now, I've got a deep cut here for Hey, It's That, guys. Rebecca, you should know this. Do you recognize the actor playing Patrolman Sullivan, the one who chased that thief down with the cell phone?
Police, freeze!
I do not. Who was that?
No.
That's Scott Nicholson. He's on your favorite show, Rebecca, Succession.
Oh, really?
He plays Colin, the nefarious security guy.
Who?
Colin, the one who, set up the whole, covered up the whole cocaine infused car accident.
Yes, he's the Ray Donovan of Succession.
Yes. Yeah. He's had 6 Law & Order Universe appearances, all as uniformed officers. In fact, here's a rundown of his IMDb roles. You ready? So, Patrolman Sullivan, Patrolman Walker, Cop Number 1, Detective, Police Officer Number 1, Escorting Officer, U.S. Marshal, Cop, Nats, the Cop, find out that it's Uniformed Officer, Cop Number 2, Policeman, Policeman Number 1, First Policeman, Court Officer, Uniformed Police.
I'm sorry, I don't care what it's short for. I don't think you're going to hear me calling out a dude's name in bed to my lesbian girlfriend, even if it's short for something else,
Yeah.
Oh, Larry.
But here's the question. So we're supposed to believe that Mitch is her like aggressive alter ego, right? She gets mean when she's Mitch. She maybe abuses her girlfriend when she's Mitch. That's what we're told, right?
Yeah.
So why would Mitch and not Sharon be the person that the dying person calls out for? Like, why aren't they calling out for Sharon? Why do they want my bitch in their final moments?
Because he wants the avenging lesbian to come and get the guy who did it to her.
Got it. Got it.
Don't save me, but murder the guy who did this. Okay.
Yeah, I would have called for an ambulance myself.
Yeah.
You didn't get to see the real her.
Exactly.
Mild-mannered Sharon by day and Super Dyke by night.
Well, I mean, she could be the Hulk because you don't want to see her when she's angry.
It's true.
Because when she does, she punches Elliot Stabler right in his fat fucking face.
Love it.
Which was so satisfying, to be honest.
Fucking love it.
No. You're going to talk to me this time. Should I call you Mitch?
It was amazing.
Yeah, he's been such a douche this entire episode.
It's almost as good as Kathy Griffin repeatedly calling Elliot Assy McBigpants. Not as good, but
Not
almost
quite
as good.
I mean, look, I don't expect Assy McBigpants here to catch anybody, but Benson, you seem pretty on the ball.
I think we saw a little peek behind the curtain there because Chris Maloney does have kind of a big ass.
He does.
I think it was Kathy making a dig against Chris Maloney rather than Babs making a dig against Stabler there.
Is that why she's been banned from SVU too? Now let's look at the second half of this episode. Elliot is not interested in pressing charges against Sharon. Who's my bitch now, Stabler? But she's not their suspect. The rapist has struck again, and he has a message for the lesbians who have ruined his neighborhood.
I'm right here, honey.
I told you to stay outside.
You also said Sharon was guilty.
Babs, he had a message for you. He said, tell that bitch Babs Duffy I'm coming for her next.
Needing round-the-clock protection, Olivia hangs at Babs' apartment when, oh yay! Babs goes in for a kiss, but denied.
Oh.
Meantime, surveillance video from the second rape reveals the criminal has a tattoo on his hand. Now, later that night, a would-be intruder is shot in the ass by a patrol woman before he can get into Babs' window. And Sharon gets all lesby strong and attacks him going into the ambulance. But he doesn't have a tattoo, so who is he? Confronted with pictures found on his phone, Babs admits he's her male lover. Benson and Stabler urge her to publicly admit that he's not the rapist, even if outing herself as bisexual will ruin her lesbian street cred. While the crowd at her rally turns on her, Stabler spots the guy with the tattoo. It's Ronnie, the local print shop operator. Ronnie admits he was trying to scare the lesbians out of his neighborhood, or at least score a conversion with his persuasive dick. A grateful Babs thanks the detectives for their work, and to show just how bi she is, she gives Stabler a fat kiss on the lips, because if you can't be with the one you love, you may as well kiss Stabler.
Love the one with the biggest ass.
So, Kevin, we have to talk about Finn's reaction to Elliot's getting punched by Mitch.
What happened to him?
Technical term, punched by a chick.
Sweet wisdom from Finn.
I mean, yeah, technically that is what happened, actually.
It's 100% truthful.
But Elliot, of course, doesn't want to report it because he's a little bitch who does not want to have in the record for whatever reason that a woman hit him in his beautiful little puss.
I do like that Cabot called him out, though, for being a little bitch.
Totally.
So Babs and Olivia do some emotional scissoring here, if I may say so. So first Babs says to Benson,
He has the hots for you, you know.
Excuse me?
Stabler.
No. No, that's never going to happen.
her reaction. What do we think, fans? What do we think of that reaction?
Oh, it's never going to happen.
I don't know. I think she's kind of silly to play dumb. Like, what? You know, like, I think she knows, just like we all know, the kind of sexual tension there.
It's season 11, folks.
Come on. Benson, aren't you a fucking detective?
And you examine sex all the time, but you still can't spot your partner's boner. Okay.
She's distracted by that fat ass.
Giant ass in the way.
Exactly. And she's not for the badunkadunk. I get it. So then next comes the pass.
Let's get something to eat, okay? Whoa. Now, that's not on the menu.
So you're saying this is sort of a shout out to the fans, a wink to the fans who have been putting this theory forward that maybe Benson is gay.
Who's saying that? Me? Because I'm totally saying that. 100%. Yes, that's what it is.
It's this episode was I think of it as a queer bait and switch. You know, it's like very, very queer baity episode because I think in the previews before they aired this episode, they actually show the kiss.
Or the go in for the kiss, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
and you don't see it stop, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what got all the lesbians to watch, and then it ended up being one of the more offensive episodes we've ever seen.
Well, I do have a question though, because Babs says that Olivia is Ellen, Joan Crawford, and Calamity Jane all wrote into one. Fucking Ellen? Really?
Yeah, where?
I get the Joan Crawford and Calamity Jane, especially maybe with the gun or whatever, but Ellen? Really?
I think that's just the one lesbian that the writers knew.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ellen?
We have a very old demographic that's up late tonight, so let's just throw out as many lesbians as we can. We just want somebody to identify with someone, yeah.
You also got to throw in a very safe lesbian like Ellen that the old folks can get behind, you know? They're like, oh, she dances.
That's right.
I thought Calamity Jane was probably, a good one. Who's going to be offended by a lesbian from the 1800s who had a gun?
You're like Pete Buttigieg, Calamity Jane, and Joan Crawford. All the old people love Pete Buttigieg, by the way. You know that, right?
Yeah.
But what the offensive part is when Olivia then has to go to Stabler and ask,
"Did you ever get a gay vibe from me?"
Would it matter if I did?
You're not answering the question.
Well, it's not like you've had a lot of luck with guys.
It's called being married to the job.
What the fuck? What is that?
Well, he says you haven't had a lot of luck with men. Now, look, if that's the criteria, if that's the criteria, then Stabler, you ought to be coming out of the closet like a Murphy bed. Gotta have luck with the other sex, yeah.
I'm just doing this whole lesbian thing until the right guy comes around, you know.
That's right, yeah. Well, if you can't beat him, join him, I guess.
I mean, I have a real question though. So, if the fans, especially the lesbian fans, wanted to watch Olivia Benson kiss a woman, and this was the bait to get them to watch this episode, would Kathy Griffin be the woman that we would pick? I don't think so. What about Cabot, man? They should have had them, be lesbians together. That would have been hot.
The height difference is so profound.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, with Kathy Griffin.
With Kathy Griffin.
Oh, yeah. They probably had her on an apple box.
Exactly. Within minutes of shooting that intruder, there is already an angry mob outside Babs' apartment, ready to tear the guy apart. I want to know, how did they all get there? Is there a lesbian bat signal I don't know about?
This is actually the most accurate part of the episode, okay? The lesbian gossip train is so strong. I've got a lesbian text thread right now that if I said, to the Batcave, they'd be here in 5 minutes.
Got it. You guys don't use Face Union for that? You use text?
Only when one of us is missing.
We've evolved over the past 10 years, our communication. But I think they already brought signs and halogen lights so that they could, what are they protesting?
Have those signs at the ready, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think they all drive Subarus? Because they need lots of storage space for their signs.
If they could make those signs like that, they wouldn't need the print shop.
What's funny, though, is when Kathy Griffin, character Babs, says that the print shop guy is anti-lesbian because of typos on the flyers. Spoiler alert, she was fucking right.
She was right.
But typos are not a hate crime.
All that paranoia. It's true.
Sometimes it's true, yeah.
Sometimes it's true. Anytime I order some food and the order's wrong, I just look at them and I'm like, that's fucking homophobic. You forgot my sour cream, you fucking homophobe.
This is yogurt. What are you saying? So they do get around to arresting Ronnie. And so the way they get him to crack is that Olivia goes into the box and she poses as a very aggressive lesbian.
That's right.
To get under his skin.
All us lesbians are a mistake. Except the good news is, you know how to correct us.
You're wrong.
But you want to make me right, don't you, Ronnie? Correct a bitch like me, grab me off of my feet, throw me onto that table and bend me all the way over because you've got everything you need to make me a real woman right between your legs.
And you'd love it.
I love this whole, like, Benson going, let me take what I've learned in this episode today and apply it. Leather jacket. Hands trying to be casual, but not actually casually in my pockets. It was so awkward looking.
But what was interesting was Olivia's impression of an aggressive lesbian was really just Olivia Benson. Because literally the way she interrogates everyone she's angry with. So maybe she really does have a gay vibe after all.
An angry gay vibe, I guess.
Big Apple aggressive.
Yeah. But here's what I still don't get the motive. Ronnie is kind of like an incel, I guess, where he can't get women to date him. And so he turns violent because he realizes, well, even lesbians won't sleep with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude.
Duh. But it does kind of, like, there is that belief, though, a lot of times that, like, lesbians, you know, oh, you're not really gay. You're just, you know, you're just confused, or you just need the right dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's not true.
I just haven't found it yet, Rebecca. Okay.
You've had no luck.
Yeah, well, there are plenty of wrong dicks out there. I know that.
Not if you purchase them. But yeah, that's why I was, you know, sure there are bisexuals and pansexuals, demisexuals, all that's great. But it was kind of annoying when there's this character presented as a lesbian character for all intents and purposes. And then all of a sudden she's like, it's a kind of that idea. She finds this guy and she's like, oh, I wasn't expecting it, but turns out he's the right guy, you know?
Yep.
And so it's just kind of annoying because obviously fluidity exists, but there's this belief that all lesbians have a fluidity, which is not true. So it's just one of those things that another thing this episode kind of perpetuated that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, the fact that if she were bisexual, that would be
a bad thing.
Yeah, or it would be a betrayal to
But it's
her
both.
people.
The fact that she is bisexual is a betrayal of the audience and the writers to the character, right?
Right.
But then also the fact that lesbians would be super fucking upset and like none of them would be accepting of a bisexual friend is also fucking wrong. It's the whole thing about it is wrong, and the fact that the writers felt like they had to make her that. It's everything about this is wrong.
I think one of the things is that we need to kind of like not like her. I mean, I think we like her because she's funny. But we learn like, yeah, she's all about lesbians, but she's not helping gay men. She's not helping transgender. It's just about lesbians. So that way, when she's not just a lesbian anymore, we're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's probably tough on her.
Yeah. She figures out empathy once everyone starts shitting on her.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right, Rebecca. It's kind of like it's a twofold. It's double-sided offensive. It's like, not only are you writing this character who you present as a lesbian and then kind of show this fluidity that kind of perpetuates the idea that all lesbians are fluid, but then to show the reaction of all her other lesbians saying, you betrayed us just because she's bisexual. I mean, that's, you know, that's the whole like man-hating lesbian
angry dyke stereotype, which all the cops in this squad basically say over and over and over again. A bunch of pissed off dykes, a bunch of like, it's like, yeah, you're basically like underlining that for us. Thank you very much, because we needed that education on the gays. That's what we needed. We straight people.
Right.
Thank you again for les-splaining to us, Dick Wolf. All right, now take a look at the real life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Rip from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Read from the headlines.
Plot points in this episode were inspired by the social and political movement referred to as radical lesbianism or separatist lesbianism. Developed during the 50s and 60s, radical lesbianism grew out of the view of some activists that the mainstream feminist movement only represented the concerns of heterosexual women. Betty Friedan, the author of The Feminine Mystique and first president of the National Organization of Women, famously declared that lesbians should stay out of the equal rights movement. Stung by this rebuke, lesbian activists set out to form their own ideology. But radical and separatist lesbianism can have different philosophies and goals. Some activists strive to bridge the gap with feminists to better represent lesbians. Others want to break from a political system that they see run by a heteropatriarchy. Today, the radical lesbianism movement is active in the US, Canada, and Europe.
Okay, so again, as the straight, white, male member of the patriarchy, this discussion is obviously going to make me look bad. Okay, so tell me, Haley, what is your take on radical lesbianism as a political philosophy?
I tend to dislike any marginalized group that excludes any other marginalized group. I mean, I think we should all band together against straight white men. You know? But I don't really like the idea of excluding another minority. I get kind of feeling the sting of saying, you know, lesbians shouldn't be involved in the feminist movement. But yeah, I'm not sure if that exists as much anymore. I think typically feminists nowadays include members of the LGBTQ. But, you know, there's always those pockets of people. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with TERFs.
I am. Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so that, for your listeners who aren't aware, that stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. And those are often like lesbians or feminists who exclude trans women from the feminist conversation or feminist inclusion, which I think is just another very old school way of thinking that I think is kind of dumb and stupid and something I don't support, and I don't think people should. I don't think any minority or marginalized group should kind of punch down on any other marginalized group. You know, I think that, again, I think we're stronger together. I think we could be empathetic towards each other. Even if we're not the same, I think we can all be kind of empathetic to the struggles we all face, you know.
I understand like the political movement goes back 50, 60 years, but I have to say, from a branding perspective, radical lesbianism sounds like the kind of thing that opponents would tag it.
That's right.
Because it sounds threatening.
That's right.
Am I wrong? And does that even matter? Maybe for some that's the point.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I think that also the opposition can take kind of anything and make it kind of mean something negative. You know, like you see like Antifa, right? Like people are like, oh, that sounds dangerous. And really it's just anti-fascism. You know, it's not necessarily, it doesn't sound threatening, but it's kind of made to sound that way. In the same way when people call me like a SJW, like a social justice warrior, I think that sounds cool, but it's kind of it's kind of meant to be like an insult in a way.
That's right. That's right.
It's like the people that came up with feminazi.
Right.
Would come up with this term, but I think the members of that political movement sort of claimed it for themselves, and they lean into it.
Right. I think a lot of this, and you can correct me if you think that I'm wrong, because you are our token lesbian for the purposes of this conversation.
Way to be an ally, Rebecca.
No, but I think that as much as like the TERF stuff I think is bad, and this idea of like the marginalized radical exclusion of other minorities and for your own cause thing is bad, I gotta say when it comes to lesbians, I kind of fucking get where the anger would come from, because there is sort of like a skip over effect that I think does have to do with the perception that lesbians are lesbians by choice. That seems to pervade the culture. It certainly happens in this episode. We talked about the Kathy Griffin thing. Like, she can just choose. She's just choosing to be a lesbian because she hasn't found the right man or whatever. And certainly, like, porn doesn't help with this, like, pop culture idea that, like...
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Of course, because you're disgusting. I
know a lot about lesbians, I can tell you.
A completely straight woman can be turned, just like if her husband marries the hottest stepdaughter imaginable, kind of like... situation. I mean, I do kind of fucking get where the anger comes from. You know what I mean? I get it. Even I think that, sort of acting on it and creating a group that marginalizes other minorities is not great, obviously, but like, I do fucking get it. If I were a lesbian, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed like so much of the time.
Yeah. And you know who they'd be pissed at? Fucking feminists. So who's woke now, Rebecca? Way to just think about yourselves, you heteronormal women. Rebecca, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Which of these militant groups would Serena Sutherland belong to?
Is it because she's a lesbian?
Apparently so. She's got to pick a side.
Oh, we know she's a Big Apple aggressive. We just know it.
Well, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank our guest, Haley Manrique. Haley, where can our listeners follow you online?
Yeah, you can find my podcast, We're Not Together, with Zach and Haley. Basically anywhere you find podcasts. It's just me and my gay friend, Zach, gay-splaining queer culture to straight people. And you can find us on Instagram at Not Together Podcast and on Twitter at Not Together Cast.
And Rebecca, how can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Reb Lavoie.
And you can track me at at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Line editing by Henry Lavoie. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. To get ad-free episodes of These Are Their Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. Get your first month free at stitcherpremium.com/crime. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Special thanks to the elite squad of the Law & Order Wiki community for preserving the evidence. If you want to know what episodes we're talking about in our upcoming shows, go to lawandorderpodcast.com. Sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.